quick one tonight. Just thinking about this in bed for some reason. And it's the topic of Sam Morsey. And obviously the, I guess, supposed controversy he's in at the moment. Just you know, my two pence on the matter. I think it's cowardly. And I think it's okay for him to take his perspective. It's okay for people to have their own views. But I think in the face of something like this, where every other captain in the Premiership is doing it, I think it's a bit strange to take this stance, personally. Obviously, your own views at home are your own views at home. And while I think using religion to inform your beliefs is something that I do every day, I'm a strong Catholic. I think a lot of people assume, kind of the whole thing of like, oh, you're Catholic, you don't believe in this, that, and the other. It's like, no, just because it's general Catholic doctrine doesn't mean that I believe in all that stuff. An example would be contraception. I believe that some people, if they are Catholic, it's okay to use contraception. Like, I'm asexual myself, so I don't feel the need to, have a strong perspective on it. And the whole thing in the Catholic doctrine about abortion, it's not for me. But back on topic, I think people are saying that, oh, he's anti-LGBTQ plus because he's a Muslim. That isn't true. I know so many Muslims that are very much pro-LGBTQ, some that even overlap into the community. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think having religion is personal. And I think, making your own views on it is important. But I think when you're a captain of a football club, you have a responsibility to yourself, of course, first and foremost, and your family. And I understand that. But it's more the people that you're also playing for out there on that pitch. So many people's lives revolve around football as an emotional outlet, especially men, but not exclusively. It doesn't really matter the gender or sex of the person. There are a lot of people out there that rely on this as an emotional outlet. Having someone kind of what feels like spit in your face, in his case, if you're an Ipswich fan or just a fan of football in general, that you know that there's people out there like that. Might be a bit of a shock to the system because you'll kind of associate that stuff slightly more outside of football. That's real life stuff, not stuff that you want to bring onto the football pitch, not something you want to go to the grounds and be thinking about, really. It's the same kind of thing with the whole Mason Greenwood situation. It's so real that it's almost like, God, can we, like, not think about this during football, please? And I guess that could be an argument against the whole, rainbow support and the BLM support that they've used in football in the past. These campaigns that are very much social issues being brought into football. I think my main complaint with that is 1 in 8 people is homosexual or somewhere on the LGBTQ community. I think it's just a bit disappointing to have such a role model do that in the face of so many people because statistically, out of the 23-man Premier League squad, 2 or 3, if they're beating the odds of their players, is in that community. Now, I'm not saying they are. Who knows? But that's just off the raw statistics. I know life isn't statistics. Especially in that age range, the under 40 age range, there's a lot more people like us that aren't necessarily conventional when it comes to, relationships or love life or identity, whatever it might be. They'll put them in that category, and then having someone that you are meant to look up to, someone you're meant to kind of respect, and they really galvanize the dressing room. Respected, kind of group between the captain. The captain's normally the pass line between the staff and the players, And I just think having that person, you're kind of the guy you go to when you have problems, potentially. Certainly when I've played football, the captain's always, available, or should be, if they're a good captain. And then knowing that maybe that person isn't there for you, I wonder what that does for people. I wouldn't doubt there's people in that dressing room that have friends, family members, maybe even they themselves are somewhere in that boat. I just think it's a bit of an interesting call. Now, like I was saying at the start, I think it's important that people have their own beliefs, their own views. There's a lot of people that do. and just 'cause it's politically um, charged at the moment for some reason, uh, the identity rights, or the right to, I suppose, be expressive, if you will. And in this case, it's not really public expression as much. I think most people have the problem with it's the more personal side of you go home and, two men, two women, a woman with a penis, a man with a vagina, whatever it might be that people seem to take offense at. Um, that really, I think, reflects poorly on the football club, who will undoubtedly have a lot of supporters who fall into these brackets, and it's a little bit of a shame. Obviously, Mark Gahey also used to be a Swansea City. Um, he also had a slogan on his thing. He did wear it. It said, "I love Jesus," or "I love you, Jesus," and that was assumed by some to be kind of an um, anti-agenda kind of slogan. And I use agenda in this term not as in anything negative, but more genuinely just a thing. I think the word's been muddied a bit, like the word excuse or manipulation, which aren't innately negative things. They've just been taken and molded into something that they're really not, into a more negative context. But yeah, this agenda to then move on and says, no, well, no, I do just want to show my religious support, or in his case, lack thereof, to an extent. He just says, I don't believe in the cause wholeheartedly, but I believe in the Bible, which is, I guess, a way of looking at it. And I don't have a problem with that at all, actually, because I think, like I was saying earlier, to be consistent, it's important people have their own views. I also think that religion, again, like I was saying earlier, is very personal. And on top of that, to add actually something new rather than just going in circles, the apathy is quite powerful. Now, we've all heard the quotation, bad things happen when good people sit down and do nothing. No. In this case, I think apathy is acceptable. I think in most of life, apathy is acceptable because we can't all have, grandiose ideas over such large concepts. We don't have the time to consume and understand all this kind of stuff. But I think in this context, it's fine because someone not saying something to you, not looking at you weirdly, just being apathetic to it. If two dudes are kissing in the corner, okay, you get on with your day, And I think like that genuinely is great. I think it's baseline, but baseline isn't what we have as a society. So baselines actually sometimes feel like going above and beyond, not getting dirty looks from people, not just, having people that are exasperated because you're being yourself. And I think that on a level is actually, yeah, it's a stance that I personally would commend. Um, Going back to Sam Morsey, I think it's a shame the stance he's chosen. I understand why he's chosen it, and I think the response to him in terms of unilateral support, especially on the internet, is concerning. From a societal perspective, as I was saying earlier, I think a lot of society isn't at the baseline, at the bare minimum it should be. I think, quite frankly, homophobia is one of those things that I think is abhorrent. I know, hot take, but I think it really shouldn't affect people who aren't involved with it at all. What people do in their own home, it's not particularly invasive, and I think just treating people equally, if they want to, you know, do this, maybe that, maybe both, maybe none of it, like in my case. Then just let people live. And I know that argument could be flipped on the head. Let people live. Don't force, the rhetoric of the LGBTQ agenda, if you want to call it that, down people's throats. But I think it's important to remind people that people are people, and that, you know, that's basically what the movement is. It's just baseline acceptance. regardless of what people are, because it's such a large spectrum. I mean, you've literally got people that like people of their own, you know, their own gender, people that, don't conform to gender rules at all, people that then transition between genders. It's such a large spectrum. To be able to say that you don't like it as a whole, it seems weird, seems a bit misinformed almost. I think that is why it's such a bizarre thing to make a stand on against as a whole. Um, if for whatever reason, he has a problem with all of it, which is the sentiment I gather from what I've heard him say, it's a shame. And it shouldn't be happening in the United Kingdom in 2024. I'm mostly aware that Morsi is an Egyptian international. So, different upbringings, different cultures. It's not an excuse, but it is an explanation for the way he views the world. Um, but yeah, that's just my thoughts on the matter. Bit of a serious one, bit of a weird one to come back to. But yeah, just felt like having a talk. Anyway, it's been a pleasure as always. What's that? Cheers.